Hey Diz, let's talk about the cognitive health crisis, or the mind crisis. The mind crisis framework proposes that relationships between ideological groups in our society trap us in unhealthy social and emotional patterns. Those patterns then, with the help of well-funded psychological operations, reinforce the relationships that sustain them, creating a positive feedback loop. The Hydra with many heads represents the monstrous stability of this social and emotional trap. Today, we're going to consider the role that complacency plays in legitimizing aristocratic levels of wealth. I'm planning to make a couple more videos about complacency, and they're going to get increasingly darker. But this video's topic is mostly light. Until the end. It's something most of us do. On the spectrum from healthy and adaptive patience and contentment on one side, and willful blindness and paralysis on the other end, I'd place legitimizing an aristocracy as just a little unhealthy, like fast food. And I'd label indulging in it as simply plain old mild complacency. It's not bad in and of itself, but it is a crucial social belief that protects and encourages a class of sadistic and corrupt billionaires and hundred-millionaires who use their wealth to deluge our minds to keep us disoriented, divided, and conquered. I'm going to play clips from a video by Run It Back Philly, a YouTube sports commentator who, as far as I can tell, is a fair representation of today's independent sports commentators. Run It Back Philly will be making an argument that is almost universal among sports commentators, from small, independent YouTubers to journalists and hosts on legacy sports broadcasting networks. That argument is that the world's greatest athletes should focus on securing as much wealth as possible, and critically, to my point, the sort of wealth that will set up their family for generations into the future. Here are clips of Run It Back Philly expressing his concern that a professional basketball player, Victor Wembanyama, is accepting a $250 million contract instead of a $300 million contract because under the current NBA rules, that will help his basketball team have more money to spend on other basketball players.
Victor Wembanyama is one of the players that is worth the max contract. And you absolutely have to pay him his money. No questions asked, obviously. It's not even a question. At 22 years old, he had the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. They're telling me he took a pay cut. Victor Wembanyama signs a 5-year, $252 million max rookie scale extension with the Spurs. So he left about $51 million on the table. And here's the problem I have with this. I commend it. I'll take $50 million less because let's be serious. I mean, what's the actual difference between $250 million and $300 million? I'll never know. I'm not a rich person, so I have no idea. I feel like if you make $250 million, you made it in life, right? I don't feel like an extra 50 does much for you. But maybe I'm just very simple-minded in life and the way that I spend money. I don't know. I guess if you're mega rich and you want more houses and more cars and a yacht and something else, maybe $50 million extra helps. I don't know. I don't feel like I would have a problem taking $250 instead of $300. I know people talk about generational wealth and all that type of shit. I just don't really believe in that, to be honest with you. My problem is, why is the NBA set up this way? How did these players agree to this CBA? They got absolutely screwed. Players have to take a pay cut so that the front office can build a good team. Guess who doesn't take a pay cut? The owners. The owners made out like bandits. Players now have to voluntarily make less money so that they can build a team that they feel like can win a championship. That's a scam.
Run It Back Philly says it's a scam that Victor Wembanyama will only be paid $250 million over 5 years instead of $300 million. As an aside, he wonders aloud if he's too simple-minded to really understand what sort of a difference the extra money would make, but he guesses that maybe it has something to do with wanting more houses and more cars and a yacht. If it does have something to do with generational wealth, he says he doesn't believe in that, but it's not clear why he dismisses generational wealth. For those who consume sports media, Comments evangelizing the importance of athletes getting paid are very common. They are made multiple times a day, every day. Sports media consumers are encouraged every day to celebrate the money made by athletes. Run It Back Philly doesn't believe in generational wealth, but generational wealth is overwhelmingly taken for granted as legitimate when it comes up in most sports media. Generational wealth as a concept is celebrated and talked about as a fundamental goal for every great athlete. Even the avoidance of paying income taxes by signing with teams in Texas and Florida comes up a lot in coverage of free agents and trade scenarios. In this way, sports media consumers are groomed into identifying with wealth and power. Being a billionaire or hundred-millionaire is simply winning at life. And everybody wants to win at life, right? And certainly we should be happy for other people when they make a lot of money, right? It makes sense to a point. If a friend of mine puts together a couple $1,000,000 of wealth so that they can retire comfortably, I'm happy for my friend. If they have children, they have enough to give those children a head start and second chances. That's good. If they put together $10 million to have a more luxurious retirement, I'm both happy and impressed. But why do we celebrate strangers putting together enough wealth to give their great-grandchildren 100 years from now the option of not working a day in their life? This isn't just happening in sports media. We are all being encouraged to pick our favorite billionaires and hundred-millionaires and form parasocial bonds with them. Maybe it's because we love their athleticism, or their movies, or music, the way they make us laugh, or the products that they sell to us. There are about 30,000 billionaires and hundred-millionaires around the world for us to choose from. We are encouraged to live vicariously through them and identify with and desire their lifestyles. To be clear, I have no problem with Victor Wembanyama signing a $250 million contract or a $300 million contract. It's not up to him, or LeBron James, or Taylor Swift, or, for that matter, Donald Trump or Elon Musk. Every living billionaire and hundred-millionaire was born into this system. They didn't create it. Many of them, not all, spend a lot to protect their rackets and undermine democracy, but none of them created this situation, and none of them have the power on their own to build a healthier alternative. It makes no difference to the system whether or not Victor Wembanyama and his family ascend to the global aristocracy. I don't require anyone to symbolically reject hundreds of millions of dollars out of protest. I'm skeptical that would accomplish any lasting change. But our parasocial bonds with particular billionaires and hundred-millionaires stabilize social and emotional patterns that keep us from working together to take power away from them as a class. And if we want our own great-grandchildren to escape the fate of forming a peasant class without rights, we're going to have to take power away from them as a class. While not all billionaires and hundred-millionaires have been working for decades to destroy all vestiges of democracy, as a class, that's exactly what they've been working towards. Some of them very deliberately so, and very passionately so. The reason extreme wealth tends to encourage human minds to develop sadistic superiority complexes is because otherwise billionaires and hundred-millionaires would be burdened with imposter syndrome. To really think that they do more for society than 500 nurses in Wembanyama's case or 25 million nurses in Elon Musk's case requires cultivating false beliefs about their superiority over others. Some of these people manage to resist these feelings of extreme contempt more than others, but as a class, they have failed to resist these feelings of extreme contempt. Now, you may very well think Wembanyama really will do more for society over the next 5 years playing great basketball than 500 American nurses. Fine. You may very well think that Elon Musk has done more than 4 times more for society than all the licensed nurses of the United States combined. Fine. I think you're wrong, but you don't have to live every day with the palpable reality of your extreme economic superiority over almost all other human beings you interact with. Elon Musk has to live with that reality every day, and it has warped his mind. Victor Wembanyama will now also live with a lower level of that reality every day. His mind will now be at greater risk of falling into the rabbit hole of contempt and superiority. This is why so many billionaires and hundred-millionaires were titillated by Jeffrey Epstein making economically vulnerable teenagers available to them for sexual favors. The availability of a never-ending cast of forbidden fruit felt like proof that they were above the law and inherently superior. Epstein functioned as a concierge of elite crime and corruption. He could give them advice to avoid taxes and launder money, help them buy illicit drugs and weapons, and of course, his specialty, he regularly groomed teenage girls, and sometimes preteen girls, to give sexual favors to powerful men. These powerful men, and some powerful women, were surrounded by other powerful men and women who didn't themselves take part in the sexual predation of teens, but who were so committed to their mutual superiority as a class that they had no problem maintaining social relations with powerful sexual predators. Those teenage girls were looked upon more like cattle than as moral equals. The difference between a luxurious $10 million nest egg and true generational or aristocratic wealth is that one represents the apex of a hierarchy at least reasonably attached to reality, and the other is representative of a hierarchy that necessarily distorts the minds of those on top.